Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This is my boomstick.
Here's Johnny.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Righteous! Righteous! Yeah!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Houston, we have a problem.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Those Film Nerds podcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, who is far superior in every way at podcasting than I am, sjdierberger. Sam, how you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing great now that I got that kind of introduction.
I know.
My goodness.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. No. Come on. Everyone knows Will is superior to me in every way.
That's not what the fan mail says, Sam. And we get thousands a day.
We keep track of these things.
Yeah, there's a tally. I'm looking at the tally board right now, and it's you have a lot of groups of fives. So let's just say that. But
Yes.
Before we get too distracted and on tangential road, how are you doing? How are you doing today?
We're doing good, I think we went over this last week. We're back in our home states.
Yep.
Our home state. We're back home from our adoptive home states, I suppose. And we're settling in to a long and slogging winter where, as we also talked about last week, we can't get to the theaters.
No.
So we're I guess sheltering in place and trying to watch as many new releases as the film gods will allow.
Us to do. Right. That's a good way to put it, really. But Sam, I mean, we're obviously gonna do a weekly recommendation. We're gonna do industry news, but what's that middle segment, Sam? What's the movie of the week?
This week we'll be talking about the long-awaited Mank.
It's Orson Welles. Of course it is. I think it's time we talk. What is it the writer says? Tell the story you know. Hello, everyone.
Make yourself to home, Mr. Mankowitz, or shall I call you Herman?
Please call me Mank. Mank.
This is Herman Mankowitz, but we're to call him Mank.
There we go. Mank. Like you said, long awaited, long anticipated, for many reasons, obviously. But we'll get into all of that and our thoughts on the movie in just a little bit. But before we get into that, let's talk a little industry news. And I feel like for the most part in this segment, or every so often, we're grasping for things to talk about because there just isn't much going on right now. But this week was a little different. I have, believe it or not, 4 things. Maybe they're all a little small. One we could maybe go in depth. But actually, sure. Stuff happened this week, which was good, which was nice to see. But Sam, do you have any industry news, or should I just start off?
Yeah, well, something to mention real quick. I came across this. This is probably one of the, I guess, biggest moves in terms of free streaming in cinema, I suppose. It says that all 19 James Bond films will be streaming for free on YouTube for the foreseeable future. And this is kind of, I guess, a olive branch to the fans who have been waiting for No Time to Die to come out. It was originally slated for last spring. The movie was all produced and everything. They didn't want to put it out because of COVID, obviously. So that should be interesting. If you have any inkling to check out James Bond, I guess you can do it for free now on YouTube.
How long is that? How long is that for? I haven't heard of this. This is exciting news to me.
It doesn't specify. I think it's just a
Interesting.
something to tide the fans over.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, cool. Good for.
But that's strange.
I don't know who. I want to say it's Warner Brothers that owns the James Bond, but good for them. That's cool. Very nice.
Yeah.
You know, there's just a couple small things, and then there's two that maybe we should talk a little bit more in depth of. We'll start with the least of note. Kind of, actually, I shouldn't say that, but I should say that it kind of relates to James Bond, and it's that Gal Gadot or Gadot. How we've argued about how to pronounce her name before, but
yeah,
we won't get into that now. But Gal Gadot, I'm going to say, is starring in her own spy thriller franchise called Heart of Stone, similar to 007 or Mission Impossible or something of that nature. But that's cool. That's exciting to me. I love a nice spy thriller. So it's good that we're going to be getting more of that.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting that they know right away. They know right away that this is going to be a franchise. And honestly, why shouldn't it be? I mean, she's one of the biggest in the world right now, and she's perfectly capable of doing stunts and other action-y things. So that's pretty exciting.
Very exciting, but not much of note to discuss there. But in other news, Damien Chazelle's Babylon, Emma Stone dropped out. Unfortunately, I know we're both big fans of Emma Stone, but guess who replaced her, Sam?
Even better than Emma Stone, Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. So you did see this. Okay, good.
I did see this. Yes.
Okay.
I was very excited.
You know, this is supposed to come out next year, but it'll probably be 2022 when we actually do see this. And this is very high on my anticipation list, as I do love me some Chazelle. Sam, are you excited for this movie at all? What are your thoughts on Chazelle? Just real quick.
Of course, because I mean, you know, this movie is supposed to be old-timey Hollywood. I guess the description I read is it's set in kind of the period when the movie industry was transitioning over to talkies.
Correct.
When the silent film industry was kind of dying. And yeah, I mean, that should be good because we already saw Chazelle with La La Land, obviously, set in a modern setting, but, you know, very much the aesthetic in terms of music of something from, you know, like Singing in the Rain or something of that nature. So that will be interesting, certainly, to watch. And the cast looks pretty solid, of course.
Right. And that's interesting that you say Singing in the Rain, because La La Land there's so much inspiration drawn from Singing in the Rain to La La Land with the entire dance sequence at the end. And of course, Singing in the Rain, about another movie about the transition from silent era to talkies. Right,
exactly.
I'm thinking Chazelle likes some Gene Kelly is all I heard right there. She likes Gene Kelly. But so that's very exciting to me. And I can't wait for Babylon. But something interesting here, Sam, and we kind of talked about this just a little bit last week, so let's not go too far in depth, is that we were predicting this, at least, and HBO and Warner Brothers finally did it. But HBO Max, I should say, HBO Max and Warner Brothers announced that they will be allowing their movies to be seen in theaters and on a streaming service on the exact same day, which is exactly where we thought this was going. We were a week ahead of the curve. Look at how far ahead we are. But this is interesting because I didn't think it would be this soon. So we're getting this as early as next year, which is absolutely crazy to me. I think this is proper for Warner Brothers. I don't mind this decision. I know a lot of people are getting angry about this, but we talked about this last week. This will, in the long run, be cheaper for families, for large families, or even families of 4, this will be cheaper. So I'm all for this. Although I like that they're still releasing it in the theaters, obviously, because I want to do that. But Sam, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I think things like HBO, companies like HBO are kind of realizing, look, we're getting some big project acquisitions. Some of the stuff, the franchises we've been handed that we're now releasing is, really profitable stuff. And they recognize that, until we come up with a more permanent solution as to how we make a ton of money off of these blockbuster type pictures, we need to extend some sort of peace offering to the movie theaters to help us be profitable in the short term, at least. Certainly. So, I think it makes sense for everybody involved. It's obviously good news for us because, we like the experience of a theater. I think
Right.
many people do. Even people who, only see a couple of blockbusters a year like seeing them in a theater. I don't think anyone, willingly wants to watch a blockbuster at home unless they absolutely have to. So, it makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. I just think this is exactly what we said. I'm not shocked by this. I know a lot of people were upset, but I don't know why you would be. I mean, if you're upset by having to pay $30 to go see a movie in your home, then just don't do that. Just go to the theaters. That's still an option. So, yeah, this is exciting to me. I think it's cool. We'll see how long this lasts. If this is only due to COVID or if this will continue past COVID into the year 2022. But for now, that's what Warner Brothers and HBO is up to. But Sam, I have one last industry news piece, the one I'm most excited about. And unless you have anything else, I'll
I have a couple more just minor pieces of
go
note.
for it. We'll save mine for last then.
Okay. First of all, there's this kind of renewed controversy about a little girl named Sofia Coppola. And no, I'm not referring to On the Rocks, which was one of the, biggest achievements of this year in film, I think. But Sofia Coppola's performance in The Godfather Part 3 is getting all this newfound, criticism online. And that's only because, Francis Ford Coppola has decided to re-release a newly edited version of The Godfather Part 3, which he has retitled. He has retitled this the Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. And it's just, it's hard for me to believe that this is not a giant cash grab. I mean, come on. The movie's terrible. No editing can save it. And sorry, Francis. Sorry, Sophia. But yeah, that's just something of note, which I found kind of humorous, kind of annoying slightly, but
that excuse me, that is very funny actually. And officially IMDb now has it as The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Oh, that's terrible. That makes me hate this even more.
Why would you say that Michael Corleone dies? Like, isn't that like the number one rule in titling a movie? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just lazy. It's assuming that everyone already knows the ending. But
another question is, this doesn't make me want to watch the movie again. Why would he do this? I guess, like you said, for money, but who would pay to see this? You practically had to pay me the first time to watch it.
I don't know.
That's
well, my guess is that it's probably like a quarantine project of his, Francis is getting up there in years. He obviously had to lock down pretty extensively, like most of the elderly population, and he needed something to work on. There's no raw footage to work with. So he's like, oh, well, why don't I recut this terrible movie that I made 30 years ago? That makes sense.
Oh, shit.
You know,
That is funny.
like,
Well, Francis,
yeah. Yeah.
made a couple really good Godfather movies, and then you made a stinker. And now you just decided to make the stinker stink even more. So,
Well, you know, he's recut Apocalypse Now like 5 or 6 times, so that's also of note.
He just likes to tinker. He's like George Lucas. You can't stop messing around with him. Just let him be.
He just needs to tinker. It's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
You know.
We should take...
the other point of interest that's kind of important. The Oscars 2021 ceremony will be held in person, which thank God,
That's exciting.
Because I was just bracing myself for a virtual Oscars, like just sit through a Zoom meeting of, oh my God, it'd be so terrible, right?
Oh gosh, that would be awful. All the old Academy members and all of the older people that were nominated trying to give their acceptance speeches or whatever. Someone's going to be on mute, and that is good news. That is very good news.
Oh,
that would have been bad. That's funny, actually. Again, dude, that was funny. So good. That's good, actually. But finally, Sam, what I've been waiting to talk about, and actually this came out about 8 days ago, so like a day before we did our last recording, and I just forgot to talk about it last week, but I will not forget this week. And Sam,
okay.
That's an untitled Saoirse Ronan murder mystery.
Oh, yes.
You heard it. It's going to be fantastic. She's pairing up with Sam Rockwell. And Sam Rockwell, his character's name is Inspector Stoppard. So I'm assuming he's the inspector. I don't know. And Saoirse Ronan's character is Constable Stalker, which is awesome. But what's really exciting to me is you know, we've seen this. Saoirse Ronan, she's, you know, she makes Ammonite, she makes Lady Bird, Little Women, and those are obviously like she's trying to get that Oscar. And this is more like she's just trying to have a good time. And it's probably, there's going to be some jokes in it. It's going to be fun, lighthearted, I would assume. So even though it's a murder mystery, you know, it's going to be something like Enola Holmes almost, if I were to guess. It's not going to be like that lighthearted and that silly, but it's going to be not so serious if I were to imagine. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll be very serious, and I'd still be game for that. But Sam, here's the description. In 1950s London, a desperate Hollywood film producer sets out to turn a popular West End play into a film. When members of the production are murdered, world-weary Inspector Stoppard and overzealous rookie Constable Stalker find themselves in the midst of a puzzling whodunit within London's glamorous theaterland and sordid underground. You know, this reminds me, I have a feeling it's going to have a similar vibe to Murder on the Orient Express. So
okay,
I'm excited for this. All you had to say was Saoirse Ronan, and I'm in. But
a murder mystery.
A murder mystery. Oh man, it's gonna be awesome. What are your thoughts? I mean, initial thoughts, obviously.
I mean, same as yours, I would assume. I mean, you know, we love Saoirse. We love murder mysteries. You know, Knives Out was one of the more surprising, I guess,
fun
dark horses of 2019. Yeah,
absolutely.
It was just a refreshing take, and I guess, you know, my guess would be that something like this project was kind of invigorated by the success of Knives Out. Like, you know, okay, a mainstream audience can still go out and enjoy a murder mystery. Like, that's not a thing of the past. It's still engaging. So that's very exciting.
Well, there we go. That was a lot of industry news. We kind of ran through it quickly, so we didn't just bore everyone down. But Sam, should we talk some Mank?
Let's talk some Mank.
Herman Mankiewicz, New York playwright and drama critic, turned humble screenwriter, Mr. Hearst. This is a business where the buyer gets nothing for his money but a memory. What he bought still belongs to the man who sold it. That's the real magic of the movies. Like blood, fire, religion.
Help! Someone save me!
All in one film. That's director proof. That's why I always want Mank around.
Boom. Mank. Here we are. Sam, how long ago were we talking about this when we saw the first picture of Gary Oldman just doing a little smile on Letterboxd, and it said Mank, directed by David Fincher?
God, that was... How long ago was that? I've known about this project for probably
a year.
Over a year.
Yeah.
I would say pretty shortly after I got onto letterboxd.com.
Absolutely. Well, this is no doubt highly anticipated by us. We don't really have to go too into depth by that, but I mean, we both love Gary Oldman. He's one of those chameleon actors. We both love Fincher. He's a great storyteller. And then obviously with the source material of Citizen Kane involved, this is a recipe for awesomeness.
Of course.
I'll just say.
Course. Yes, of course.
But let's get into our initial thoughts here. And Sam, I'll start with you. Spoiler free, of course.
Yeah, Mank is a great film. I would say just well executed from start to finish. It's kind of it. It's mostly talking. It's pretty slow, but it's one of those films where if you can get yourself into the narrative, then it moves like no problem. It's seamless. Every scene makes sense. It's well paced. The direction is fantastic. I think I've been hearing some criticisms online about the style, the aesthetic. It's obviously shot to look like a 1930s picture. I've heard a lot of criticism online about it. I didn't really see that per se. I thought, the aesthetic worked really well. I thought it looked great. And Gary Oldman gives one of the best performances I've seen from him. It's up there, certainly. And Fincher proves once again that he can make more than dark, twisted, psychotic films. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, those are my initial thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, this is something completely different from something like Fight Club or Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Yeah, it's not a thriller by any sense of the imagination, aside from, I guess, wondering how we get to where we're at. But it's not really thrilling, which Fincher does so well. So it's interesting to see him tackle something a little bit different, something a little bit outside of his box. And I think he crushed it. From a movie making standpoint, this is as good as it gets. From everything. I mean, obviously the cinematography is beautiful, and I agree with you. I think having it look like it was made in the early 1940s or late 1930s was genius, and I think it worked really well for what Fincher was trying to do there. I thought Oldman was fantastic, like you said, but even more so, I thought the supporting cast around him was really good, and Amanda Seyfried especially was doing a lot with the little she was given, and she was fantastic. I guess I have just one complaint, and you kind of said it. It's a little slow, and frankly, this is made for the absolute most Citizen Kane nerd ever, and I'm not that. And I found it just slightly sluggish in the middle. which resulted in me being kind of taken out of it. I was a little bored at times, just in the middle act. And I don't think Fincher did anything wrong. I mean, he's still telling the story and he told it well. I just think to a point, this movie wasn't exactly for me. I can still appreciate and respect everything done in this movie because it's obviously technically sound. There's nothing to pick apart here. Just that I was slightly bored by it. And I'll get into that a little bit more too.
No, yeah, I think that's a legitimate criticism. And that's, I think overwhelmingly what we've read from, online, if there's any criticism of the movie, it's that it does have this kind of sluggish pace. And particularly in the middle, you're right. That's a very astute. Because I guess the way that the film tried to, get around the sluggishness of the narrative is it like its predecessor, Citizen Kane. It followed a non-linear storyline.
Yep.
So you would see one thing happening in the present, and by present I mean 1940, and then you would flash back to some of the earlier events that happened a decade before and further on. So that was kind of their way of like keeping you engaged. But you're right, like if the movie was just a linear storyline, I think it would be a pretty good deal less exciting because you're not finding things out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it worked well. I thought it was all right.
I should say I will be giving this an extremely high rating, and I still love this movie. I was entertained by 80 to 85% of what I saw. There's just a little bit in there where I don't know if I could have done without it because you still needed it to tell the story. I wouldn't even wanted it done differently. I was just slightly bored by it, but I still loved this movie. And like you said, how the structure is told, or how the story is told structure wise, with it being in multiple timelines, is awesome. It's genius because Citizen Kane is told that way. And B, that's what gives it. Without it, it would have been a heck of a lot more boring, which props to Fincher for recognizing that, or if that was his intent, whatever. But so I guess I just want to make that clear that I wasn't bored the whole time. It was only just a select amount of time. And I said, that was the only complaint I had. So this is a great movie, one of the best of the year. And we'll talk about that later as well.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so, but I think the best way to approach this, first of all, is to talk about kind of the strange story of this film's production, because this project, we've known about it for, as we said, probably a year, but this project has been in the works for nearly 25 years.
Oh, yep. Absolutely.
According to Wikipedia, Mank was officially announced in July 2019 when David Fincher said he would direct the film and Gary Oldman was set to star. So yeah, July 2019 is probably about right when we found out. The screenplay was written by Fincher's father, Jack Fincher, prior to his death in 2003. It was originally going to be Fincher's follow-up to The Game in 1997, with Kevin Spacey and Jodie Foster set to star, but it never came to fruition due to Fincher's insistence on shooting in all black and white. So, I mean, first of all, that is quite a story. I mean, I was surprised myself. I guess I had read this before, but I was surprised myself when I was watching the movie towards the beginning, and it says screenplay by I think Howard Fincher is his real name. He went by Jack, but David Fincher's father, who interestingly enough was a screenwriter and a journalist, and served as San Francisco bureau chief of Life magazine. So, Fincher must have had an interesting upbringing. But but what do you make of this? That this is kind of, as we said, this is a weird project for Fincher to have. But what do you make of the idea that this was obviously a passion project for Fincher to begin with?
Yeah, this is very clearly a passion project. He wanted to put his dad's words to the screen, obviously, so he wanted to do it as early as, like you said, 2003. And to show even further that it's a passion project, which I appreciate, is that, Fincher thought the story should be told in black and white. And when he couldn't do it then, he said, "I'll wait, that's fine," which I also appreciate. So that just shows how big of a deal this was to Fincher, which obviously proves that he's going to treat this with care and do it properly, which he absolutely did. So that's cool, though. I didn't know it was that far in the making. I knew Fincher's dad wrote it. I just didn't know how long ago, and so that's very awesome, actually. Should we get into specifics, Sam?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe specifics on the first half of the movie. Let's stay spoiler free for just a little bit longer. So how did you like getting to know Mank within the first 30 minutes? I played in the opener a little segment of like Mank kind of going around and meeting people and making friends. And
yeah,
that is my favorite part of the movie. But what do you think of it?
Oh, I would agree. I mean, it's so interesting because immediately when we meet Mank, he's he's an incredibly broken individual, severe alcoholism, has an accident, he has a car accident, so he's basically just immobile completely, pushed around a wheelchair, literally is writing this script by dictating to a secretary the words of the script. And then all of a sudden we cut back to 1930 and we see Mank as a kind of self-assured, highly individualistic, idiosyncratic screenwriter who's very sure of himself. But as the film goes on, we see that Mank, that character, that earlier character of Mank, is still there in the 1940s Mank. Like, yeah, he's broken, he's got all sorts of problems, but he still has that self-assuredness. He still knows how genius he is, and he's still trying to write. And that is really what sells the film. Ultimately, it's just kind of an undercurrent throughout.
Absolutely. And that, I said that was my favorite part, when he was kind of meeting everyone, because because the character of Mank is so fun and energetic, and obviously Oldman just does that so well. But I think that's what makes this movie so entertaining for a large majority of it. Again, I did find it entertaining. Is that the character of Mank is awesome, and like, yes, he's like you said, he's very sure of himself, and maybe a bit of a jerk at times, but it makes it fun to watch on screen, watch him interact with other characters, as the other characters are more like reserved, I would say, and so on, where he's just exuberant and really out there. It's so fun to watch those interactions, especially when he's I think of one scene. It's where one of the first times he meets Amanda Seyfried's character, they're all kind of sitting down and I think just having some drinks, and they're talking about the Nazis. And that is just an awesome scene of him kind of snipping back at other characters who make claims that he doesn't think are true, or maybe he does even think they're true, but he just likes to argue, which would be even better. So yeah, I would just say that you're right. The character of Mank was so entertaining to watch that it really held the movie together in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah, there's that other great scene where, I guess Mayor comes to, well, not Mayor, his handler, Thalberg comes in and says, like, into his little cottage where he's writing Citizen Kane, and they're under tremendous amount of pressure from the deadline for getting the script done, and Thalberg says to him, like, you like we're about to get fired. And he goes, have you ever been fired before? And he goes, I don't. And then Mank says, like, I don't remember. I've never been not fired. Like he's so resigned to like being, and he has several monologues about this, right? Like being like a true artist and truly not caring about where his next meal is going to come from or whether or not he's going to be successful. It's all about the writing for Mank, despite his his many flaws, his many vices, I guess.
Right, and I'm glad you kind of brought up that scene because it's easy to forget with a movie like Mank that's set in the 30s/40s and is kind of drab source material, especially if you're not familiar with it. It's easy to forget how funny it is, and that just comes from Fincher, obviously, is because because of his scripts and his directing style, how fast paced they are, and properly paced though, but how quick they are is they're very funny. And I'm glad that Fincher didn't lose that just because this is a more serious or seriouser subject matter. So I'm glad that he kept that amusement up for the entertainment factor, obviously. But to keep going on, I guess we can get into spoilers here. So spoilers for Mank. Go check it out on Netflix now if you haven't seen it already. But
yeah.
And we should say, go watch this movie. It's very good. It's a technical achievement. But let's where do we start with spoilers, Sam? I guess I do want to talk about the scene, or kind of scenes, I suppose, where he's interacting with his friend. Again, spoilers. His friend who ends up killing himself. I think we should talk about that because I think that tells a lot about Mank himself in the 40s, or what led him to be where he is at. But is there anything else that you would like to talk about, Sam, before we get into that? I'll just start then. Okay. So I guess the main thing about his interaction with that character whom I'm forgetting the name of, Louis B. Mayer, I'm pretty sure, is that it's tough to pinpoint where something goes wrong in a human being like that, but it's easy to see the catalyst to it, and I think that scene is the catalyst for Mank as a character. So I liked that Fincher did show that. I mean, it'd be easy to gloss over that and not really show how Mank is at where he's at. But so I'm glad that he did that scene, and especially, I mean, to the degree he did it with how it was executed was really well done. And then we thought Mank saved the day, but obviously to turn out he didn't know. That was really good. So we're just gonna take a short break and come right back. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Both of us are back. And as like I was saying just before, the scene where Mank's friend kills himself, it is one of the best scenes in the movie. But Sam, is there any scenes that stick out to you as being really great, or just spoiler thoughts as well?
Oh, I thought the nighttime evening stroll with Amanda Seyfried's character was really well done. The dialogue there was just so cutting and unique. So that stood out to me. Also, I think we played it in the trailer a little bit, where Mayer makes that comment about the magic of the movies, and he says something like, "We can still own the product, and the audience can still pay us money. Like they're not taking anything from us," which, that's a philosophical point I never thought about before. The magic of the movie. So, that was really good. The character conflict between the two of like artistry versus commercialism, those themes are kind of tired, but they played pretty well within the context of this film particularly.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny that you say that because the thing your last point you said was saying the magic of the movies. It's funny because they say that's the magic of the movies probably 3 or 4 times in this film, all about different reasons as to why movies are magic, which was just funny. I'm glad they kept bringing that up because that was a funny bit that they could do and kind of go back to. Let's get into the ending a little bit here. Because the ending is definitely better than the middle act, and is probably better than the opening act too. So the ending, it finishes on a bang, at least for me. I love how it's crunch time with Mank writing the script. I really liked how Orson Welles was in the movie. I'm glad Fincher didn't shy away from that, because that's kind of a daunting character to take on, as Orson Welles was so incredibly talented, but probably not the kindest person ever. So I'm glad that that they at least had him in the movie, for a limited amount of time, mostly over the phone. But how did you think Orson was portrayed in this movie? Do you think?
We did. Yeah, there was controversy over this. Because Orson Welles, like you said, is such a monument of American cinema, and it's like, is it going to be too anti-Welles? Is it going to be too pro-Welles? Because he's still a controversial figure, But ultimately, we don't see much of him. He's a minor character. He's kind of like a presence that's constantly hanging over their heads. Like they always say, like Welles is going to be angry about this, or Orson's not going to like this, or Orson's going to like this. But other than that, I thought he was portrayed fine. It wasn't like I wasn't as excited to see him as I thought I would be. Like
agreed.
There was all this build up, and it's like, he's cut to a couple of times, but it's not like he's portrayed in this like grandiose light. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I did really enjoy the scene he was in with Mank. I thought the way Oldman and Tom Burke is the man's name who played Orson. I thought they were funny together, and they were really good. And the interaction they had of Orson saying, "You'll be done," and that's that. And then obviously Mank being like, "But I don't want that to be it, because this is the best thing I've ever wrote, and I want credit." And that was a really cool interaction. And I always like learning how something was made, or what went on behind the scenes of the making of. So that really interested me. That was really cool. But the ending, let's get into the ending, Sam, unless you have any other thoughts.
Well, I would like to mention that Citizen Kane, what we talked about on our Citizen Kane episode a few weeks ago, what the same issues that we brought up about that film was was in Mank, which I really appreciated. You know, like they talked about how the nonlinear storyline, like the average audience is not going to be able to grasp this. This makes no sense. It's a very dense film. And also the sled, Rosebud. They talked about the sled, and there's that shot of Oldman when he's like leaning back. He's like, I'm gonna make the audience. No audience is gonna be more surprised than this one that, you know, they could care so much about a sled. Like,
That was really good. And you know, I also liked in the present timeline, or the closest to us timeline, the 1940s timeline, when you know, a number of people are coming to visit Orson coming to visit Mank, including Orson, and telling him, you know, how great this screenplay is, kind of like you were talking about, but it is dense and nobody will understand it. But then saying like how many people wanted in on this project just because of they read the script and were like, it's genius, it's great. I thought that was really cool as well. And that was Fincher's way of paying respect to the film Citizen Kane, and how genius it really is.
right,
but,
exactly.
Well, I mean, one of my favorite parts of the movie is the ending, and it goes out on a high note, like I said, and that's, you know, he finishes the screenplay, and we get to see they win the Academy Award for best screenplay, and then my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts, is Mank's acceptance speech. He's not at the awards, but he gets his Oscar, and then they say, you know, what would your acceptance speech have been had you been at the awards? And I don't exactly remember what he says verbatim, but he says something to the nature of, well, I won this myself and did all of it without the help of Orson, or something funny like that. And that just completely summarized what Mank's character was. He was the snippy and a little bit sassy, and absolutely sure of himself character. So that was very well done, and I loved it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he says something like I would want to accept this award just how I wrote the screenplay without Orson Welles. Yeah, like the setup and the delivery was perfect. But
it was a great bit, for sure.
It was a perfect ending, and it also mixed the you know, because it has, in a typical, you know, biopic of any sort, you know, at the end, any film that's based on a true story, they have that little text at the end. It's like,
right,
this character went on to do this, da 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 da, and it flips that on its head, because you see that text and you're like, oh, okay, and then it cuts to Gary Oldman still in character as Mank, like the narrative is still happening. Yes. And he gives that little speech, and it's hilarious. So yeah, I thought the ending worked really well.
It was awesome. And it's funny, I thought it was great that, and this again just proves how great the film was in general, or in every aspect. In this one, makeup and hairstyling, is that Oldman is playing, for a large majority of the movie, he is playing like a 36-year-old, you know, in the 30s. No, he would have been, yeah, about 36, which is awesome. And he looks like he's 36 when he's playing those roles. I mean, maybe a little bit older, but
yeah,
he looks about 36. And Oldman is Oldman. I mean, he's in his 60s at least. So that was really nice too. I thought that was cool. But Sam, do you have any other Mank thoughts before we hit a rating?
Yeah, I would just say that the black and white, I don't know if we've properly appreciated that yet, but like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, you could probably, you know, teach a whole class about how they were able to pull this movie off, how to make it look like a 1940s movie. But yeah, I mean, the set design is phenomenal.
Right.
But you can get away with a lot when it's in black and white, and that kind of leads to your point about the aging. Things are less defined in black and white. You can change a lot. So I thought that's just something to mention.
Yeah, one more thing actually. I thought when we were going to the extent of saying how realistic this looked, like it was made in the 30s, 40s. I thought to the extent that many of the actors, mainly Oldman and Amanda Seyfried too, sounded like they were from that time as well. Like they were in the times. And
Yes.
did that perfectly. And that was very commendable and great job there. But I suppose actually before we get into a star rating, let's talk what do we think about for any Academy Awards here? I have my thoughts, but Sam, I'd like to hear yours. What do you think?
I say, Fincher gets a Best Director nom. I think, Gary Oldman should certainly get a Best Actor nom. If he won, I would not be upset. And I think certainly a cinematography. Cinematography was fantastic. Maybe Best Original Screenplay, possibly, but that gets tricky.
Sure.
Because again, his dad wrote it, so I don't know if he can really claim it's his, and his dad's been dead for 20 years, so but yeah, very interesting stuff. But I would say for sure probably cinematography, actor, director.
Yeah, I think Fincher will win Best Director for this. I think it's a very directing movie, if that makes sense. And Fincher's doing a lot here, so I think he wins it. I don't think this. It'll get a picture nomination, obviously. I don't think it'll win.
Right.
I think Oldman will be nominated. I don't think he'll win. I think Amanda Seyfried will win. She is very good in this, and I think she'll pull it out. I could be wrong, but she'll definitely be nominated.
For supporting, you would say?
For supporting actress, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will get like you said, cinematography. This will get a lot of the technical awards. It'll get editing, or it'll be nominated. It's gonna get makeup, hairstyling. It's probably costumes. Amanda Seyfried's wearing a lot of crazy costumes a lot of the time.
Yeah, production design.
For sure. It's going to be nominated for as many things as it can be.
It's like last year and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Exactly.
The Academy likes, essentially just self-glorifying movies.
They love a Hollywood movie about Hollywood.
Exactly. So I don't think it'll win Best Picture, although a lot of people are saying right now it's the favorite, but I don't think it will win Best Picture just because it's not, to be frank, it's probably not progressive enough. We have just all white characters, not very appealing to the Academy.
Yeah.
It's, but I think it'll certainly get a nomination.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, let's rate this one out. Sam, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5. I think it's a great film. Don't be deterred by just a 4. I think movies with 4 stars are very high caliber works, in my opinion, and this is well executed from beginning to end. Mank is fantastic. 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm giving it a 4. I think for me on a quality level, this is definitely up there with the best, like 4.5, maybe even 5. But as a sheer entertainment, it gets lowered a little bit to a 4, but still very, very entertaining, very good, well made. I do want to ask you one more thing, Sam, before we get into recommendations. Where does this sit on your Fincher list?
On my Fincher list, it is number 3, I think.
Okay.
I would say that it's slightly better than The Social Network. I think that Social Network is a tinge overrated. just slightly. But I think Seven and Fight Club, both certified classics, are still ahead of this for now. But, time will tell. Obviously, this is going to get several rewatches in subsequent years by both of us, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Fincher's one of my favorite directors, so I have Mank a little bit lower just because, I have Seven and Fight Club at the top, similar to you. But, I love Gone Girl, Zodiac, and The Social Network. I find those to be a little bit more rewatchable than Mank. So I have Mank at number 6. But that's not to say Mank is a bad movie. It's just to say that Fincher is an incredible director. So,
right, exactly.
But there we go. Before we get into recommendations again, I'm just going to say next week we'll be doing just Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed. We'll be doing that next week. That's on Amazon Prime, so go check that out, and we'll be here next week to talk about it. And with that being said, let's get into recommendations. Sam, I have mine. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to start us off?
Yeah, you could go ahead. I'll think of something.
All right, here we go. I recently, it was just the other day, 2 days ago, actually. I watched the Chadwick Boseman tribute documentary. Very, very well done. Still getting over that. That's still obviously a devastating loss within the Hollywood community and just within the world community. If you're a citizen of the earth, Chadwick Boseman was a great person. So that one hurts on multiple regards. But I'll say go check out it's called Chadwick Boseman, A Tribute for a King, I believe it's called. Yeah, Chadwick Boseman, A Tribute for a King. It's out on Disney Plus. It's like 40 minutes, 39 minutes, something like that. It shows obviously the iconic work he did on screen and how great of a person he was off the screen as well. So I'll say that's my recommend for the week. Chadwick Boseman, A Tribute for a King, out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and related, we'll be talking about his last film, Rainey's Black Bottom, in a couple weeks here.
Yeah, yep.
We know that's in the works, so that'll be exciting and somewhat sad, bittersweet, certainly. My recommendation this week, I watched I think this is Wes Anderson's second film.
Oh, nice. I know what you're going to say.
Yes. Rushmore is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful movie. It's absolutely hilarious. It's very heartfelt. It's a comedic masterpiece. Probably because Bill Murray has a somewhat significant role, but also because, the movie is fantastic. It's just completely well made. It instantly shot up to my favorite Wes Anderson movie. So definitely check out Rushmore. I think you'll like it.
Rushmore is great. And
I love it.
Jason Schwartzman is just embodies that character so well. So
he does. He's supposed to be 15 in that movie.
Yeah, that's great.
Hilarious.
But Sam, where can I find you on Letterboxd?
Well, if you're looking, you can find me at sjdierberger at letterboxd.com. And where can I find you, Will Spalding?
You can find me at the same place, except at Will Spalding. And you can find us in the 1940s, just talking to Mank. Or find us at anchor.fm/thosefilmnerds or Those Film Nerds on any podcast platform and YouTube, or Those Film Nerds on Instagram, and at thosefilmnerds@gmail.com if you want to email any questions or comments into the show. We'd love to hear them. But
Hey.
Sam, with that being said,
Keep watching movies, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Ever thought about making a podcast? Well, Anchor is the easiest and simplest way to do so. Let me explain. For starters, it's free. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, laptop, or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on multiple platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, and much, much more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need in a podcast in one place, so give it a try.